The 9240 EGR service tool is designed to clean the EGR systems on particular vehicles that are known to have EGR problems. There's two common types of EGR systems. Both EGR systems are covered with this system. We got the pressure feedback EGR system, which is covered with this tool, and we've got the most common, which is just the EGR system that has just a regular EGR valve. The most common EGR system we just identify. We've got several plates in the kit. The plates that we have available are the ones that are for the vehicles that we know have particular EGR problems. We identify the plate that matches up with the EGR valve. We remove the EGR valve. We replace it with the particular plate that we've identified. We'll use a 9242, which is a gravity feed tool, to supply chemical. We'll supply chemical to the intake side, which has vacuum, which is going to basically suck the chemical through our vented cap here, suck the chemical down through the intake side, cleaning the intake side out. Then we'll come back and we'll clean the exhaust side using an exhaust side adapter. With our supply tool hooked to it, and also air. The reason we use air on the exhaust side is we've got about a half pound to a pound of back pressure on the exhaust side that we've got to overcome. So we've got a preset 60-pound regulator right here that will allow us to overcome the exhaust side, the exhaust pressure, the back pressure on the exhaust side of the EGR system. To clean the EGR passages on the EGR system, what we'll do is we'll identify the appropriate plate that matches up with the EGR valve on the vehicle that we're working with. Once we've got the plate identified, we'll remove the valve. We'll replace it with the plate that matches up with the valve. We'll use a supply tool, 9242. We'll use the supply tool to clean out the intake side. We'll also use that same supply tool to clean out the exhaust side using the exhaust side adapter. We've also got another type EGR system, which is a pressure feedback system, which is a little bit more in depth, which we'll cover when we get to the auto lab. We're going to clean the EGR system on this vehicle. First thing we need to do is we need to locate the EGR. Once we located the EGR valve, I'm going to remove it. When I remove the EGR valve, I'm not going to unplug it. I'm going to leave it plugged in. I'm just going to lay it off to the side. The reason I'm going to do that way we don't set any trouble codes. Got my gasket still in place. I'm going to go to my 9240 kit. I'm going to identify the plate that I'm wanting to use. Bolt her on. I'm going to get my vented cap. It's also in the 9240 kit. That's going to go on the intake side. On the intake side, we've got vacuum, so we use the vented cap. On the exhaust side, we've got half pound to a pound of back pressure. So we got an exhaust side adapter. It's got a preset regulator. It's preset at 60 pounds. That way we can override the back pressure of the exhaust side. Next, we want to get our supply tool, 9242 tool. It's a gravity feed tool. It requires no air. The product we use is 211. We want to use a minimum of 2 cans of 211 per service. We want 2 cans going through the intake side, 2 cans going through the exhaust side. Now, depending on your area, it's going to depend on how hard the carbon is in the EGR system. So I've already put 2 cans of 211 in the tool. So we're going to go ahead and start the vehicle. We want to make sure that the vehicle is up to operating temperature. We can hear through our vented cap, we can hear that we've got vacuum going through the intake side. That's good. If we didn't have any vacuum or heard that hissing sound, then we would know that the intake side of the EGR system was plugged. If it's completely plugged, you're probably going to have to manually get a hole going through there or manually clean the system. Want to make sure our vented cap's open. We're going to open our ball valve. The product's going to run down through our hose. We hear the engine change pitch. Right now the product's as it comes down through our vented cap, the air is being sucked through there, the product's being atomized and going down through the system and cleaning the intake side of the EGR. We want to do the intake side first. After we get done doing the intake side, we want to come back and do the exhaust. If we were going to do a plenum service along with the EGR service, we'd want to do the EGR service first and then come back and do the plenum service. If you've got a system, you got a vehicle that's known for having bad EGR problems with it clogging up, or also if you got a vehicle with high mileage, once again, like I was saying, it might take more than 2 cans, but one thing you can help with the service to help it go better is after you've run the car, you run a product through the EGR system for 1 to 2 minutes, what you can do is you can just shut the vehicle off, shut the tool off, and give it a soak cycle. Give it a soak cycle for 2 to 3 minutes, then start the vehicle back up, open your tool, and let it finish the service. That soak cycle will help soften that carbon, and it'll help where you don't have to use so many cans to do the service. When the service is complete, we're going to hear the engine change pitch, and we're also going to see all the product. Our hose is going to be clear. All the product's going to run out of our hose. As you can see, the service is about complete. Our product's running out of our hose. Next, we want to do is we'll close our ball valve. We're going to have to refill our tool. We're going to move our supply tool from the intake side to the exhaust side. We're going to refill our tool. Once again, we want 2 cans minimum. I've already put 1 can in there. Make sure my vent valve's open. We've got to hook air. We've got to hook air to our exhaust side adapter. Once again, we want to override the back pressure from the exhaust. We've got a 60-pound regulator. We've got air. Right now, we've got air going through the exhaust. Next, we want to open our ball valve. Once again, we got product in our hose. We allow the service to run until our hose is empty again. Here we go. We know the service is complete. We see the product leaving our hose. I'm going to close my ball valve. I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to allow the vehicle to sit here and idle for 15 to 20 minutes to purge the system of any 211, any product that's left in the system. After I've allowed the vehicle to run for 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to shut the vehicle off. Once we've got the vehicle turned off, I'm going to take my fittings off the vehicle and reinstall the EGR valve. We're going to remove our adapter, remove our EGR plate, and inspect our gasket. It needs a new gasket, replace it. I'm going to reinstall our EGR valve. We want to drive the vehicle after we've got it put back together, make sure we don't have any service codes, and make sure everything's operating properly. Another EGR system that's out there is called a pressure feedback system. This system, when we clean it, we do not use a plate. We use our exhaust side adapter, and we just go in to the pressure hose that runs the PFE pressure feedback, the sensor that runs the EGR valve. We want to go through the tube that's closest to our EGR valve. We just put a nipple onto our exhaust side adapter. We got a short hose going in between the two of them. Then what we want to do is put our product in our tool. After we got our product in our tool, the service basically goes the same. We're going to put air to our exhaust side adapter. Obviously, we're going to start the vehicle. As the vehicle's running, we are going to put product going through the exhaust side. We're going to let it go through the exhaust side for around a minute, minute and a half. Then after that, we're going to take a vacuum hose, and we put our vacuum hose on the EGR valve. We've taken the vacuum hose off the EGR valve and put our vacuum pump on there. Before we open the EGR valve with our vacuum pump, we're probably going to have to run the idle up on the vehicle to 1200 RPM. The reason is when we open that EGR valve, it's like creating a huge vacuum leak in the engine, and that makes the vehicle want to die. So we run the engine up 1200 RPM, use a throttle depressor. When we open our EGR valve, the idle will come down and it'll go ahead and do the service. When we know the service is complete on this system, due to the fact that as soon as the product stops going through there, our idle will start coming back up. After we've run the vehicle or run product through the exhaust side for around a minute, minute and a half, we're going to go ahead and open the EGR valve, and what that's going to do, it's going to pull vacuum on our exhaust tube, sucking the product in through the valve and into the plenum on the exhaust or the intake side, cleaning the intake side of the EGR system. The service is going to run until the product's gone again. If the product's gone, we want to remove our vacuum, make our disconnect, shut the vehicle off, and the service is complete. The complete instructions for doing this system and this system is in the manual of the EGR, the 9240 kit.